morning, Robbie. Good morning, America. Good morning, world. It's Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. I'm cartoonist Ted Rall. Producer Robby West is sitting in for the vacationing Manila Chan. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning on the TMI show. We have I think, an important show ahead of us, Robbie. We're going to be focusing on the case of Mahmoud Khalil. He's a graduate student who recently graduated, I should say, in December from Columbia University with a degree in international affairs. He's a green card holder. He's married to an American woman. They've been married for a while, and she's 8 months pregnant. ICE goons broke into their university-owned apartment against university rules. They dragged him off kicking and screaming and pulled him into the ICE Gulag archipelago, disappeared him. He apparently is in Louisiana at a detention center there, and the ACLU and other people have turned him into a cause célèbre. We'll be getting into that, the civil rights and implications of arresting a green card holder, according to the Trump administration, purely because he criticized Israel during
with no charges, no crime, not accused of committing a crime. This is disgusting.
It is disgusting. And so we're going to be talking with my former co-host on Sputnik, Angie Wong. I suspect she'll be on the other side of the equation. So we're going to have a robust dialogue and debate at the bottom of the hour. You're going to want to keep that here. Also, we're going to be talking about the case of a British cartoonist, a young woman about 30 years old who was traveling as a tourist, apparently similarly has been snatched up in the anti-Palestinian Trump ICE sweep. She also has been swept into an ICE detention center. She's a young British woman. It seems, and according to Trump, on Truth Social, many, many more are coming. This is just the beginning of a crackdown. Of course, with Trump, you never know really whether he's serious about anything. But anyway,
I think he's very serious about this. He's very serious about this.
It seems to be. He seems to be. And even if it stopped here, it's way too much. All right, let's get into the news, Robbie, because we do want to make sure we have enough time to talk to Angie at full length at the bottom of the hour. Okay, so a train carrying hundreds of passengers has been attacked and halted by militants in the Baluchistan region of southern Pakistan. That's along the border with Afghanistan and Iran. It's always been a politically dangerous area, very unstable. The Baluch Liberation Army, known as the BLA, confirmed that it has attacked the Jafar Express train, which was traveling from Quetta, which is in western Pakistan, and it's kind of like a gateway to Afghanistan, to Peshawar. A statement from the separatist group said it had bombed the track before storming the train in Sibi district, which is in the middle of nowhere. The group, the BLA, says that the train is completely under its control. Pakistani police say that they have received information that 3 people, at least, including the train conductor, have been injured in the shooting attack. The cops said that security forces have been sent to the scene. But a Baluchistani government spokesman told a local newspaper, Dawn in Pakistan, that there are reports of intense firing at the train. The BLA says it's holding a number of hostages, including security officers, hostage, and has warned of severe consequences if an attempt is made to rescue anyone. Officials have not yet confirmed that anyone's being held hostage, but whatever, it's clearly happening. The Quetta railway controller, Mohammed Kashif, told the BBC that between 400 and 450 passengers were on board the train, but that they had no independent verification of the hostages, whatever on that. A senior police official from the area bordering Sibi says the train is just before a tunnel surrounded by mountains, according to Agence France-Presse, the French wire service. So, I know a little bit about this. I've been on those Pakistani trains in the middle of nowhere. They are like something out of the British Raj, and a lot of them date back to the British Raj. They're very old trains. They're from the 40s, 30s. They're kind of beautiful. They have like velvet seats, but they're old. They're well maintained, but they're old. And it's like and it's dangerous. I mean, I've taken trains from Pakistan into Afghanistan, and usually, and whether also the same thing is true in these regions, about the buses. There's usually armed men in full uniform with automatic weapons riding like in the doorways with guns open and pointed at all times. So there's always an awareness that an attack can happen. And so, this seems to be like the beginning of a hostage crisis that could drag on for a little while.
What are they after? I don't really know a whole lot about this area. I mean, what are they after? Independence? Are they looking for a stricter? Just that's what it is independence movement?
They want, the Baluchis are a distinct ethnic and cultural group. And the province of Baluchistan has sought, many militants have sought independence there from the Pakistani central government for many decades. So that's what this is about. It's about.
So just another problem of British cartographers drawing maps without any regard for the history, culture, language, the people that they're just putting on these lines.
Yeah, the Baluchis definitely, I think they have a strong case for ethnic self-determination. I would say, it's hard to say, right? It's like, the Supreme Court said about pornography, it when you see it. How do you know an ethnically distinct group, right? Well, it's like kind of like those guys are an ethnically distinct group.
Gotcha. Well done, Brits. Well done.
As always.
No one draws a map like the Brits.
It's true. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has been arrested at the airport in Manila, not Manila Chan, the Manila in the Philippines, at the request of the International Criminal Court, the ICC. I hope they can snag Netanyahu while they're at it. That's a shocking turn of events that analysts have said marks the beginning of the end of the Duterte political dynasty in the Philippines. While Duterte loyalists condemned Tuesday's arrest as illegal and promised mass protests, observers said that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s willingness to cooperate with the ICC arrest warrant was a master political stroke, effectively neutralizing his key rival and sealing the fate of Duterte's family. The former president was arrested while after arriving from Hong Kong, the cops took him into custody in connection with the crimes against humanity case filed against him by the ICC. The court had been investigating the mass killings that took place. You may remember this when Duterte was president. He had a crackdown against illegal drugs. And the way that looked basically was that the cops and soldiers would drive around Manila and other major cities in the Philippines and just murder drug dealers or anyone who they thought might be a drug dealer. They killed, allegedly, they killed thousands of these people. Probably some of them were innocent of any drug dealing. Not that drug dealing should get you whacked like that. But anyway,
I disagree. If you're selling poison, you get to go meet Jesus. You forfeit life.
So you're on Team Duterte.
100%.
So wait, what about would the quantity have anything to do with you? Like let's say the person's like, surely there's a difference between someone who's selling a reefer to his buddy as opposed to someone who's got like bricks of opioids in their apartment.
This is one of those things I have to kind of think about it. My knee-jerk reaction, if like, say for example, if I was a stoner, right? And me and you, I go there to New York. I say, hey, you want to buy this from me for $5?
Right.
No one's going to know. Who cares? But if you're actively peddling and selling poison, which is what they're doing, and you are directly responsible for the deaths of how many people, I have zero sympathy for you. I'm Team China on this. Put a bullet in your head, build a family for the 90 cents for the 9mm, call it a day. You end this problem. A lot of Filipinos felt that way, which is why Duterte had support. And I follow the argument. Look, I don't like drugs either. Don't get me wrong. You got to have due process. It's like the whole Mahmoud theory.
Well, there was no due process.
Have due process. Well, that's the problem. So
they were just assassinating people on the streets. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of them probably didn't do anything wrong. Like if you look a little scuzzy, maybe.
Right. No, I get it. That's a bridge too far. But no, if you're convicted of drug dealing, my stance is if you are an addict, get the help that you need. If you're selling this crap, then you get removed from your mortal coil.
All right. Well, that's another show for another time. Pope Francis participated remotely in the Vatican's spiritual report Tuesday after getting good news from his doctors after his latest health crisis. They've upgraded his prognosis. They say that the Pope is no longer in imminent danger as the result of the double pneumonia, in other words, pneumonia in both lungs, that kept him hospitalized for nearly a month. in the longest and gravest threat to his papacy so far. The 88-year-old pontiff isn't out of the woods yet, though. Doctors are still cautious. They've decided to keep him hospitalized for a few more days in order to receive treatment, not to mention a period of rehab that he'll probably need. The doctors say he's stable. He's consolidated his improvements in recent days, according to blood tests and his positive response to treatment. Francis has chronic lung disease. He's still using supplemental oxygen during the day and a ventilation mask at night to help him breathe. In an early update last night, the Vatican said that Francis is resuming his physical and respiratory physiotherapy after a quiet night. In a sign of his improved health, Francis also followed the Vatican's week-long spiritual retreat via Zoom for a third day and spent some time in prayer at his private chapel, according to the Vatican. So I like Pope Francis. I wrote a book about him. I think that's good news. That cheers me.
Yeah. I'm glad that Brian Thompson was not in charge of his healthcare plan, because he could have had a different result if that was the case. So there is a case for Medicare for all, or whatever it is, sort of call it. I mean, universal healthcare, whatever. I'm glad there's no profit motive behind putting all these resources for a dude who's pushing 90. I'm glad that he has the insurance that probably 90% of American seniors wish that they had. So
yeah, no, for sure. And as it is, American seniors are in better shape than American middle-aged people, right? I mean, it's like at least they have Medicare. So I mean, I know you have to pay for it, and you shouldn't have to pay for it. I was surprised to learn that when I took over the medical care and all the bills for my mom. I started getting all the bills and taking care of them, and I was like, "What do you mean you have to pay for Medicare? Like, why? Yeah. Like, what if you can't? Sucks to be
then
you."
You're screwed. Yeah, then you are screwed. Yes, because with my day job, I go through and I deal with so much crap that's insurance related, and a lot of the doctors I talk to, I mean, Ted, I mean, you go to doctors, ask them, how many support staff do you have just to handle insurance claims, as opposed to nurses and inmates you have working for you? The numbers will blow your mind.
Well, I mean, it's like, also just think about how much, I mean, you know this better than anyone, how much like resources go into dealing with insurance, right? How many nurses, aides, doctors are spending time dicking around, writing referrals. You shouldn't need a referral. Like getting, the code is wrong for the insurance. You got to get a new code. You got to call I mean, this is all like, it's a lot of money, right? I mean, it's like, it's not like, oh, the insurance is just there. Like I would love to see, I'm sure people have done a study of like, forget about the cost of the insurance itself, but the cost of the resources and the man hours, or I should say person hours that go into the, that go into to dealing with this system. It just really is crazy.
And into a system, which, by the way, if you work for the insurance companies, you have a quota. You are expected to deny a certain number of claims every day. That is the model, and it sucks.
Well, it's a lot like it's a lot like the cops with their quota system, and it's like well, you need it's like some cops have said, like, hey, sometimes we go to a place and there really isn't anyone speeding, there really isn't anyone running at red light, and then we go to and then we get written up, and the boss says, like, never, just find someone, just give it to them whether they did it or not. Disgusting.
Very much so. That's one of the things I love about living here in Montana. The entire state has like 20 highway patrolmen. That's it.
That's 20 too many. It's right. Well, you do need them in case of accidents and stuff. Now, this is a fucking fascinating story, Robbie. Patients prescribed drugs for movement disorders, including restless leg syndrome, which we'll call RLS, say that doctors did not warn them that there are serious side effects to these RLS drugs that lead them to seek out risky sexual behavior. 20 women told the BBC that the drugs given to them for RLS causes them an irresistible, which of course gives you an irresistible urge to move all the time, ruined their lives. Report by the drug firm GSK shows that it learned way back in 2003, 22 years ago, about a link between the medicines known as dopamine agonist drugs and what it describes as deviant sexual behavior. It cited, for example, the case of a man who had sexually assaulted a kid while taking the drug for Parkinson's. Some of the women who described being drawn to risky sexual behavior said that they had no idea what was causing it. Others said that they felt compelled to gamble or shop with no history of such activities. One accumulated debts of over 150,000 British pounds. Like many women, Claire first developed RLS during her pregnancies. The restless need to move was often accompanied by sleeplessness and a crawling sensation under her skin. I got to say, I don't have that, but it sounds awful.
Yeah.
The condition persisted after giving birth, so her doctor prescribed the dopamine agonist drug Ropinirole. She says she was not, is it Ropinirole, or do you know how to pronounce that? Ropinirole, that's it. Ropinirole. She said she was not warned by the doctors about any side effects. She said it worked great, but after about a year, she started feeling these crazy sexual urges. The only way I could describe it was just deviant, she said, using that word without any knowledge of the GSK research, which had established a link with exactly the same behavior. The 2003 GSK report noted that a man on Ropinirole had sexually assaulted a 7-year-old girl, which led to him being sent to prison. Claire says she began leaving her house in the early hours of the morning to cruise for sex. Wearing a see-through top and jacket, she would flash her chest at any man she could find. She did this regularly, she says, and in increasingly dangerous locations, despite having a partner. This reminds me a little bit of the movie Breaking the Waves, the Lars von Trier movie. There's a sort of no RLS drugs, but that a woman sort of starts doing that sort of. Well, I won't get into no spoilers, but it's kind of like along the same lines. There remains an element in your head that knows what you're doing is wrong, but it affects you to the point that you don't know you're doing it, Claire told the BBC. Now, here's the money shot, right? Impulsive behaviors, including gambling and increased sex drive, have long been listed as side effects in medicine leaflets for dopamine agonists and are thought to affect, wait for it, between 6 and 17% of RLS patients taking them, according to the health guidance body NICE. A common side effect of any medicine is considered to only affect 1% of people who take it, according to the National Health Service there in the UK. 6 to 17%, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's wild. And I mean, it kind of goes back to that profit motive, right? Because the way that, whenever you're dealing with any kind of medication that deals with the chemical compound, the chemical makeup of your brain, it's going to change how you look at life. It's going to change what you do by nature. That's why alcohol works. That's why people use alcohol. That's why SSRIs. That's why there's such a big debate about those. It's the same thing, and so then you got to kind of wonder, what is the profit motive? I mean, the UK is universal healthcare. I don't know what it's like there. As far as the advertisers, like here in the US, the drug companies, they go, if you go on Fox News or CNN, there's a reason why that they are advertising.
That's not legal in the UK.
Then what do you think is the reason?
But there is a profit. The profit motive would be, well, the NHS, obviously, because it's a national healthcare service, they're motivated to have the cheapest, most effective drugs possible, right? They want to pay as little as possible for the drugs. And obviously, the drug provider, their motivation is to sell a lot of drugs to the NHS. So there's always, in capitalism, there's always a profit incentive. It's not like, in state communism, like the government's making the pills. And they, in that case, presumably they would be more likely to have the better interest of citizens in mind. I don't know. I mean, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, it could just be an oversight on the part of the doctors. Just might not really know this. I mean,
that's a hellacious oversight, though. I mean, that percentage of the population. I mean, that's wild.
And the problem is, and I'm surprised by this, here in the U.S., there's no follow-up, right? So if you have let's say, like fairly recently, I had a colonoscopy, right? The doctor's office didn't call once, 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months later to say, hey, how's your ass? It's like, they just like, it's like, okay, bye, on to the next one. But in NHS, it's a little different, right? I mean, like all those national healthcare systems that most countries have, like the UK, a lot of them have, they encourage regular checkups, regular visits. Even if you're not sick, just come in, just get some tests, make sure you're good. So I'm a little
prevention's
surprised.
better than prevention's key. I mean, that's what you do if you're trying to save money.
Yeah, so prevention saves a lot of money. So I'm really surprised that they didn't catch on to this. Or maybe, here's the thing, it could be that people that the victims of this, the RLS patients, they weren't aware of it, right? I mean, like maybe the lady who went out showing her tits all over the place, maybe she didn't think, like, maybe she's just like, I just be getting horny. I'm at the horny time of my life. I don't know. She doesn't, like that's the thing that's interesting about, like you were saying, Robbie, stuff that affects your brain. Well, you don't know that it's you're being affected. You think it's really normal. You think it's normal. You don't know, right? It's sort of like when someone says, "Oh, do you think you might be crazy?" Well, if I were crazy, how would I know I was crazy? I wouldn't know. So,
no, absolutely. I mean, doctors should, again, this is someone that works in healthcare, right? It is incumbent on the doctor for their continuing education to subscribe to different newsletters like the Lancet and other things like that, and stay on top of it. I've never been to Europe. I don't know the system. So I am talking I'm talking from an American standpoint. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen drug reps go to a doctor's office, bring a full spread, talk to the doctor. By spread, I mean, like they feed the entire office. They talk to the doctor, try and get the doctor to buy more of the pill it is that they're pushing. I mean, I have seen it more times than I could tell you. I'm going to assume that that's not legal in the UK, but here it 100% is, and it has got to influence the decisions that doctors make. Why would the companies do it? Why we have drug reps if they don't actually get a return on the investment?
Yeah, I don't know how it works in the UK. I sincerely 99% doubt they go into the doctor's office because the doctor's not buying the drugs, right? It's like it's the state NHS system that's buying the drugs. So
yeah, but I wonder if they put in the
sucking up, that's where it would happen.
Yeah, but I wonder though if the doctors put in a request that, hey, I want you to buy, I want to start prescribing these pills for this segment of the patients that I have. Like if there's a request system, kind of like what we do right here for prior auths for insurance. I wonder if it's a system similar to that.
No, it would be worth looking into. But I mean, I also think this brings up, before we move on, a really fascinating question. I mean, to me, legal wrongdoing has to do with your state of mind, right? Yeah. So if a drug is controlling your actions, like, okay, so for example, you run up a giant gambling debt. Is that really your fault?
No, it's not.
And if it's not really your fault, should you have to pay it?
No. And again, this is coming from a right winger. If you are taking a medication, and you can prove this, all you got to go through is go through the medical record and look and see, because the doctors will explain to you that they're in the medical chart. This is the conversation that I have. This is your documentation. And then you have to sign a consent form saying, yes, I understand what's going on here. Mm-hmm. If that is not the case, it's just like after your colonoscopy, your anesthesiologist had you sign a consent form saying you will not drive home after you had this camera shoved up your butt because it screws with your head. Why does it screw with your head? Because it's anesthesia. What does that do? It knocks you the hell out. It is what it is. You are not responsible for those actions. If anything happens, it should be that doctor, or at least that healthcare facility that's on the hook for it. It's not your fault.
Right. And so similarly, like, I think that frankly, an N of 1 is not really worth talking about too much, but like the guy who, ended up raping a child, if it could be, obviously he's just a pedophile, right? We don't know. One person. But let's just say, again, is he guilty? Let's just say, what's really disturbing to me is also the fact that this study was buried for so long, for 22 years. I mean, obviously they knew. This is like, really reminds me of Jeffrey Wiggin and big tobacco and like all the studies that they suppressed for years, knowing about the effects of cigarette smoke.
Well, it's just kind of like alcohol, right? I mean, you would do things if you're drunk that you would normally never do because it removes those inhibitions. I'm a pretty mild
Right.
mannered kind of guy, but when I was a teenager, I loved to fight all the time. I love fist fights, but I have learned, as I got older,
That is not a
maybe I
good
probably
life
shouldn't do
choice.
this. Not so much,
Yes.
but it can be fun. But if I went out and I don't drink, I'm a teetotaler. Let's just say I go out and just get toasted. I might decide to go pick myself a fight just because why
Right.
not? Because that
And the question is,
governor in my
again,
brain is gone. Is it my
well,
fault?
in vino veritas, right? Like from wine comes the truth.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I always wonder about that. Like Mel Gibson, right? Gets pulled over with a cop, unleashes a stream of anti-Semitic vitriol. I mean, most people, if they were in the same exact position, really drunk, that's not gonna be their thing. They're gonna have some other thing. Maybe they're gonna want to rage and pick a fight with someone. Maybe they're gonna become sexually promiscuous. But that's in them, right? And their inhibitions are controlling it. So that's interesting too. But these are different. I mean, these appears to be, it takes it beyond, right? You're not just scraping away an inhibition. You're literally, these drugs actually prompt behavior that would probably not happen. I mean, this woman, who the tit flasher, she's English. I bet she drinks. They all drink. You know what I mean? And she didn't do that when she was drinking. So that's not really in her, No,
100%. And it's just like there's a reason why, if you look at the majority of prescription medications that you get, right there on the label says, do not drink if you're taking this pill. There is a reason that is there, because you're already mentally diminished by, depending on the kind of drug that you're taking. And then if you take a downer on top of it, like say while you're popping an SSRI, go with God, because there's no telling what you're going to do.
All right, let's get into our main topic here. Before we bring in our guest, Angie Wong, the Trump administration's decision to have immigration authorities arrest Mahmoud Khalil, a vocal critic of Israel's war against Gaza, for his alleged support of Hamas. There's absolutely no evidence of that whatsoever, is an attack on free speech. That, according to the ACLU. Khalil, who grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp in Syria, served as a lead negotiator for the Gaza Solidarity encampment at Columbia University a year ago, you'll remember that, mediating between protesters and university administrators. Khalil has a green card. He's a permanent U.S. resident, which basically means that you are a U.S. citizen who can't vote, basically. He was reportedly, he was detained at his Columbia University apartment. This is university housing. And according to university rules and New York City law, no police agency can enter a Columbia University facility or any other university facility in the city without an arrest warrant. Apparently, the ICE goons didn't have one, but they dragged him off anyway. In front of his wife. He's married to an American citizen. She's 8 months pregnant. This happened Saturday night. The Trump administration has not claimed that Khalil is accused of doing anything wrong whatsoever, not even of double parking or parking in front of a hydrant, nothing. But Trump wrote that his presence in the U.S. is contrary to national and foreign policy interests. The U.S. president said that Khalil's arrest was, quote, the first of many to come. The Department of Homeland Security accused Khalil of leading activities aligned to Hamas, but gave no details whatsoever. Obviously, this just has to do with the protests. This arrest is unprecedented, illegal, and un-American, said Ben Weisner. Full disclosure, I've talked to Ben, director of the ACLU's Speech, Privacy, and Technology Project. The federal government is claiming the authority to deport people with full ties to the U.S. and revoke their green cards for advocating positions that the government opposes. To be clear, the First Amendment protects everyone in the U.S. The government's actions are obviously intended to intimidate and chill speech on one side of a public debate. Now, what happened, as I know you're aware, is that the ICE guys didn't really know he was a green card holder. They showed up and they're like, we're here to we're going to revoke your student visa. He's like, dudes, I don't have a student visa. I'm married to an American. I have a green card. And they're like, okay, well then we'll revoke that. Now, under normal circumstances, you have to be convicted of a serious crime in order to have your green card revoked. It almost never happens. It is possible. There is a procedure for it, but it certainly would never happen in a case like this. This morning, a federal judge in New York City ordered that Khalil should not be deported back to Syria. And there's a habeas corpus hearing set here in Manhattan tomorrow morning, in Wednesday morning. The Education Department, in addition, the U.S. Education Department, I should say, what's left of it before it's eliminated, sent letters to 60 U.S. universities, including Harvard, Columbia, Yale, and 4 of the University of California schools, warning them that they're going to slash their federal funding unless they address allegations of anti-Semitism on campus. So let's unpack these 2 cases, the March 8th arrest of Mahmoud Khalil and the March 9th detention of a British cartoonist at the Canadian border. She's I think roughly 30 years old. She's a British national, a white lady cartoonist who was trying to cross the border from the United States into Canada, presumably north of here on the way to Montreal. She also has been swept up by ICE and disappeared into the ICE detention system. We have no idea where she is. Khalil is in Louisiana. Apparently they took him as far as they wanted to take him far away from his attorneys and his wife as possible. Anyway, this episode, this is going to be obviously an escalating clash between immigration authorities and political activists, particularly anti-Israel ones. Anyway, this is a really, really crazy case. To help us break it down, we have political analyst Angie Wong, my former co-host, and it's always great to see you, Angie. Angie, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you're doing well.
Oh, guys, I miss you so much. You guys look great. And thank you for bringing up this important topic. As people know, I'm sure your viewers know that Ted and I did go to Columbia. So we know the landscape there very, very well. And it's pretty incredible what's happening on our American campuses. And this one, you know, when Robby sent me this topic yesterday, I had to do a real deep dive into this one, because even me, MAGA girl here, I don't even know where I stand on this issue. It's a tough one.
Really?
Yes, I mean, look, I like to think that I'm fact-based. And, you know, as much as there's MAGA rhetoric and as much as I support Tom Holman and Kristi Noem and all the great effort that they've been doing to secure and safety for our cities, this one's tough because it hits home a little bit. My husband was a green card holder. He was just recently naturalized. He told me after he was naturalized that he lived in fear here in the US for a long time. He didn't want to even cross the street without the sign being right, because he had to be a good citizen to get his naturalization. So this one's tough, because I see the moves that are being made. I see the example that that the Trump administration is trying to make with these arrests. So I'm kind of tossed. I mean, I'm right there in the middle. I can see both sides of the issues. I can see the First Amendment rights, but I can also see that it could trigger into hate crimes. But again, the prosecutors have not let us know what Khalil was actually arrested for. So we don't really know all the facts here.
Well, that's the thing, is he wasn't really arrested, right?
So
he's not really,
No.
He's been detained. So it's not a legal process. It's not a court process, right? It's a legal process.
Well,
but it's not a court process. Presumably, there's no evidence that there will necessarily even be, that there would be a hearing. Let's just say he didn't hire lawyers or didn't defend himself. He would probably just be deported. This would all be internal. ICE isn't really a court system. And so there's only going to be a court hearing because outside of the ICE system, his ACLU and other attorneys have filed a request for an injunction from the Southern District of New York here in federal court. I suspect the judge is going to require the government to put up or shut up. I suspect the judge is going to say, you've got to file charges. You've got to show us why you're detaining him. This is a green card holder. This is not a rando off the street, right? I mean, a green card holder has already been vetted considerably in order to get that green card, become a permanent resident. I mean, it's a bigger leap to get a green card than it is to go from green card to become a citizen. They've already checked him out in security. He hasn't, obviously, if they had any goods on him, like in terms of talking to Hamas or, coordinating with a terrorist group, they would have said so. They don't have that. And it doesn't even seem like it's his politics. It just seems like he's actually a mild-mannered, grad student who's just graduated with a SIPA degree, School of International and Public Affairs degree. I mean, it's not like any random asshole can get one of those degrees, right? I mean, it's like it's yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like this is. I mean, they're trying to send, the Trump administration is trying to send a message. I got to say, Angie, what do you think? I think they kind of screwed up, because here's why I say that. I know Trump wants to send a message, but the ICE guys, when they showed up, said, we're here to revoke your student visa. They didn't know he didn't have a student visa. They didn't know that he had a green card. And then at that point, smart people might have been like, oh, we'll be back later. But they're like, fuck it, we're arresting you anyway. It's like, you know what I mean? Like if they had said, well, we're going to revoke your green card. It's hard to revoke a green card.
No, it's not. It's not very hard at all to revoke a green card, not with this administration. Look, I don't know if they screwed up. I think this is certainly the perfect case to go to trial, right? At least a hearing needs to happen to understand what happened here. So we're hearing all these things. Clearly, they're being reported. As all of us in this room understands, things are misreported all the time, right? And there's a lot of noise out there. Right now, you have New York City on fire. You have people protesting on the street to release this guy. He does have a hearing tomorrow, but that's for deportation, not for necessarily what he may have been arrested for on the campuses of Columbia. So these are all questions we need to understand. And it's actually the prosecutor's office job now to let the public know, what is he being charged for? I think that is number one, because that would calm a lot of fears, right? Because if he was being charged, let's say, for hate crimes, and there was a standard for it, you would have a different reaction. If he was just getting charged for trespassing, lighting a bike on fire, whatever it is, you can almost understand that. Okay, that is a real crime, right? And I think that's where the prosecutor's office fails, is that it hasn't explained to the public. You can't just put a narrative out there like, okay, you're putting anti-Israeli sentiments out there, we're going to arrest you. Because right now, the Democrats will take that and own that message until the midterms, because
although the Democrats have not been on, Democrats are in the pocket of Israel too, and they haven't said boo. I haven't heard, if you look at Democratically aligned media, there isn't a single editorial or op-ed in the New York Times or the Washington Post this morning. They've had 2 days to write them. They've obviously there's no senior Democrats. We're not hearing from Nancy Pelosi or even Bernie Sanders or anyone saying like this is wrong. I mean, I think Ilhan Omar is it, right?
They can't say it. They're between a rock and a hard place. They're scared of Israel. Well, they're scared of losing their Israeli base and the Israeli, Jewish money that comes into campaigns, and they're also scared to, for the AOC fracture of the Democratic Party that's going to go after them if they say anything that's against Palestinians, right? So it's a weird mix, but that's what the Democrats have thrown themselves into. They've thrown themselves into the lion's den, where it's like a lose-lose situation. Have you ever seen anything like this? Where this is why politicians hate the idea of Israel versus Palestine. They hate the idea of abortion, because it's a no-win situation whenever you talk about it. It's just one big muck.
But Republicans, I think, have got themselves worse, because, like, on one hand, you have Trump and you have Elon Musk saying, oh, we need to bring in all these H-1B visa holders. So do jobs that Americans won't do. Okay, fine. Me personally, I want the program ended. We need to employ Americans. But let's just take Trump at his word. Let's open up the gates and bring in hundreds of thousands, millions of H-1B visa holders. Okay, fine. So be it. What are you going to do then? Are you going to in order to vet them, are you going to say that you're going to kiss the Israeli flag every morning? You're going to say anything bad about Israel before you get your H-1B visa? Because if you're importing people from around the world, which is what H-1B visas do, as for foreign workers, or in this case, just green card holders, whatever. If you're going to be bringing all these people in, is there then going to be a thought test to determine not only are you going to adhere to the laws of the United States, but you are not going to engage in whatever anti-Semitism is, because this Mahmoud, that guy, he's Semitic, he's Palestinian. It makes no sense to me. And then you have Trump going after Thomas Massey. What the hell? Thomas Massey's more America first than Trump is. What the hell is wrong with these people?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I get it because, I think Ted and I spoke about this a year ago, what was going on in Israel and the complete flattening of central Gaza, right? I'll never forget that whole entire series, Ted, when we talked about what was going on in real time every morning about how they're not just going into Gaza and clearing out hostages or not hostages, rescuing hostages. They were actually flattening central Gaza, miles and miles of it, to the point
80% of the territory is now completely gone.
Right. And now we know what the plan is. The plan is to build beach resorts and like a modern
I had said that
city. Yes, you did. And I quote you all the time whenever I'm on air, because now we see it in real time what's going on. Parcels of land are being given to those who stayed quiet during this entire massacre. And I will call it a massacre because that's the definition, I think, at this point.
Sure.
Right. And we see that the Trump administration is definitely helping in the real estate deal of what the new Gaza is going to look like, right? That's the whole play here. That's why Trump has to be very, very friendly to Israel, I guess, right? If we're looking, I mean, look, we can talk real politics here. I don't have to spin it. We are seeing what's going on. You had demolitions crews a year ago taking away all the rubble, completely ripping apart all the infrastructure. They don't have water. They don't have sewer. They don't have electricity. Why is that? Oh, because they're going to rebuild everything. And absolutely, that's exactly what's happening. Now, who is going to rebuild that? Is that going to be the United States? It's not going to be Jordan, who they're playing very well with. It's not going to be any of the other Middle Eastern countries that we see going in. I think all of them are going to get parcels of land. I think that was a land grab. And however they had to do it, they'll do it. But you do have displaced Palestinians. Where are they going to go? That's going to be issue number one. Is Egypt now going to finally open Rafah and the borders up so that they go in? Is Jordan going to take a few? Where's that going to take place? So until all that messiness has actually been dealt with in a systematic way, you're going to have the protests. You're going to have people fighting on campuses in America. You got to clean up the initial spark first.
Although, Angie, I mean, it's interesting, right, to me. I mean, you and I are both Columbians. That's our alma mater. Columbia University was one of the high-profile Ivy League schools. The major protests started at Columbia, and then they spread from there, right? Sort of like it was back in 1968. But Columbia did. It seems to me like they did a lot to bend over backwards to try to accommodate, Jewish donors who were pressuring the university to crack down on anti-Semitism. They fired their president, right? Pushed her out, even though she was very cooperative with the congressional committee. They opened a special task force on alleged anti-Semitism, even though there's, to say the least, not much evidence that anti-Semitism really happened in these protests.
They had a dinner,
and then they also had but they banned all the student organizations that were protesting in favor of Palestine. They expelled high-profile students who were involved in the protests. They had some of those students arrested. The point is, Columbia did go after these students, and they cracked down on the pro-Palestinian students in a big way. And somehow it just wasn't enough for Trump, and he took away $400 million in federal funding. Now, I don't cry for Columbia University because you and I both know they have billions of dollars in endowments, and they're the second or third largest landowner in New York City. So they can sell a building and they'll be fine. But the point is, I mean, apparently appeasing the Trump administration and their Israeli allies hasn't really gotten these schools very far. It's like, okay, well, you guys, it's like they didn't do anything. They should have just been like, we're not going to cooperate with you. What difference does it make?
No, what difference does it make? Trump is trying to be alpha male with universities and education institutions. It may work with, Trudeau or former Trudeau. It may work in Mexico. It may work other places. In colleges, colleges and unions are way too strong for this. They understand the political play. They understand that it's not, just taking $400 million away because of these protests. It's because Trump hates all the DEI stuff. He hates giving money to all this other extraneous things that, he can't control what's going on in these schools. And I get that. And that is America first. And I understand those policies.
But these are private institutions, Angie.
But you're giving federal money to it. You don't know, and there's no audit of the money.
And I don't even think that Columbia should accept those contracts. I feel like a private educational institution should not be attached to the federal government. It should be independent. It should raise its money elsewhere. I don't know.
400 million's 400 million. I'll take it.
Yeah,
Isn't this the ultimate form of DEI, though? I mean, Trump is saying, "Okay, I'm against DEI, except when it comes to fragile Jewish feelings, because then I'm going to use the full weight of the federal government to crush anyone who disagrees with what Israel is doing." Like, I'm a right winger, Angie. I am MAGA. That is me. But I'm coming out and I will say Israel was committing a genocide. That doesn't mean I support Hamas. And I'm sorry if I say that Israel is committing a genocide, because they were. And Trump then going out and saying, "I'm going to help them ethnically cleanse Gaza," because that's what the man said. That does not make me an anti-Semitic racist bigot because some Zionist somewhere says, "Oh, what Robby hurt my feelings. That means he supports Hamas." You can go straight to hell. I'm
worried that this behavior actually on the part of rabid pro-Israel people is actually going to cause real anti-Semitism.
This is going to cause a bigger split on the right that was already there over immigration. This is going to explode. And I don't understand why Trump is picking this fight. I do not understand it. It's just over money.
I haven't heard honestly, like you, Angie, you and I both saw the protests. We went on campus. We used our university IDs. I mean, the main problem with them really was that they were boring and nothing much was going on. but like
they were doing yoga.
Yeah, I would say, they were eating pizza. I mean, it's like basically, they were camping. It was like, yes. I mean, look, I'm not going to say, look, I wasn't, I'm not omniscient. I'm not saying that there wasn't anything anti-Semitic ever said or thought there, but it seems that I know a lot of people who are, activists in favor of Palestine, and I've never heard one of them say, Hamas is pretty cool. I mean, nobody liked Hamas, right? It's like, I'm sure there's, the occasional wacko who does, but that's an exception. And it's like, I don't know, it does seem to me like this could really cause a true anti-Semitic backlash on maybe, as Robby says, on the right, but possibly also on the left.
See, I think Columbia should take this opportunity today, and all university colleges should actually form a coalition, come out to say, we don't support any hate on our campuses.
Nothing wrong with that.
And have some built-in real policies that aligns with basically pleasing Trump without giving Trump too much. That kind of makes Trump go away for a bit, right? And makes ICE kind of calm down. That's ultimately what he wants. He wants the university heads to go, on their knees and, thank him and beg him for his forgiveness. And then it goes away. This is an ego thing. I know that, he is very, very much in support of all the new developments happening in Israel. He wants to be a part of that. He wants the U.S. to grow in that region. I get all that. Let's take the politics out of this and just protect the students, right? Now, with this arrest, I don't know if it will backfire. There's a lot of New York stuff has backfired for Trump in the last, 50 days since he's been in office. And I have to wonder if his advisors, right. I have to wonder if his advisors in New York know what they're doing. It's not Trump. It's the people in New York whispering in his ear saying, we need to do this for New York. They're the ones screwing up. And Trump, for some reason, keeps giving them more and more ammo. I would just dump these guys. I would dump all of them right now. They've done nothing but tank the administration within the first 50 days. It's like, at what point does Trump stop letting these guys slap him across the face and in the public over and over again? So that's one. Two, I think you were right. I think that this arrest is not the best example They did want to make an example on colleges, and I can see that because what happens after Columbia? Oh, you're going to have Boston University do it next. You're going to remember last summer, you had every single college blowing up because of this. So that's what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop the fire from spreading.
But it already did. I mean, there like this past fall, there was almost no activism on American college campuses, mainly, and there's really an atmosphere of fear on the part of faculty and students alike, who are saying, like, these days we're just taking a big cup of shut the fuck up, and we're just not talking because we don't want to be fired or expelled.
Yeah, it ended because summer break happened.
Right.
Like realistically, that's what happened, right?
But then it didn't start up in the fall again.
Well, and of course they waited until Trump got into office to start it up again. I mean, it's all politics, and a lot of it,
about Trump.
So I get what the Trump administration is doing. I get what ICE and DHS trying to do. They're trying to arrest the instigators, right? They know it sparked someone and somewhere. Perhaps the latest arrest, it's not just one arrest, it's multiple arrests. Maybe that's what this is about. And I get that because that's what police do, right?
They probably just thought like, this guy, he's here on a student visa. I can't believe they screwed that up, and no one could
that's weird.
Figure out. No one could type into at ICE. They couldn't type into a computer and find out he had a green card.
I think they just saw the name and went for it, Ted.
Idiot.
Honestly,
Yeah, they were
I think they saw the names. Oh, look at this. Here's a Middle Eastern sounding dude. Let's make an example of this guy.
Yeah, and he's an ugly dude too. There, I said it. I mean, he's not Luigi. You know what I mean? No. It's like on TV. It's like, oh, look at that guy. Yeah, he could be in ISIS.
Really? Is that? I mean, look, this whole administration is all visuals, right? It's all TV entertainers on. Mm-hmm. I mean, every one of his cabinet members is like very, very TV friendly. Are they not? So
the British cartoonist, though, she's kind of cute. That's going to be a problem.
I gotta see her face. I haven't even looked her up. Look, let's see what happens with this one. Trump cannot afford another New York loss. If this one is not a winner for him, New York, this is going to
be bad.
It's going to be really bad.
I don't see. I mean, look, Manila. I mean, yourself having
Manila.
You're Manila,
dude. Sorry, the other wife, the other radio wife,
the other Asian wife. Yeah. But I mean, it's like tomorrow. There's going to be that hearing, that habeas hearing. It's not in Virginia, right? New York is a liberal court. These are going to be a Democratic judge, or a panel of Democratic judges. They're going to be suspicious of Trump, and New York is a city of immigrants, and this guy's a green card holder. I mean, I'm sorry, that's radical. I mean, that's like, sweeping him and dragging the dude, the optics, 8-month pregnant American wife. Oh, I mean, that's a PR nightmare.
Again, I'm going to reserve judgments to find out until the actual criminal charges are read out loud. I don't know what he did. Well, I don't know if he set someone on fire. I have no idea, right?
But there aren't any. I mean,
there's got to be. You can't just arrest someone without. Oh, come on, jaywalking. Even I need to understand why he was arrested. And they just said it was national security interest. I mean, literally the press. I mean, here's the thing, right? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, the guy's a bad dude for some reason, right? But like Trump said, he used. I mean, he literally on the White House X account, he posted in all caps, "Shalom, Mahmoud," in all caps, like goodbye, Mahmoud, like bye, Felicia. It's like he said, this is because this guy was, in the Palestine protests. In other words, we're punishing him. We targeted him because of his speech.
It's a thought crime.
That's a classic First Amendment case. I mean, it's like he said it. I mean, even if the real reason was, I don't know, he did let your imagination run wild. He's the real Gilgo Beach killer. The point is, they didn't say that. They said we went after him because of what he had to say.
Well, and if it incited violence, that is another thing, right? We have to understand what it did. And look, speech, as you know, incites violence. It can incite violence, and we have seen violence. So now it's just a matter of who can prove their case. Can the prosecutor prove their case?
But there's no prosecutor.
There is a prosecutor.
No, there isn't. This is ICE. This is a ICE.
You're talking about the deportation case.
Yeah, well, that's all there is, right? So that's all there is. He has not been charged with anything. So there is no prosecutor.
Yeah,
there's no charges. I mean, literally, ICE is just saying, look, this is an administrative procedure, but normally it's according to all the immigration experts, green cards are only yanked if you commit a very serious felony. I mean, even if you...
We're going to test that. This is a new day, a new administration. We don't know what that actually means in this new environment. And if that's what it means, then, okay, let's just say this guy is a pawn, all right?
For sure.
Let's just say that's what he is. Does this now deter future campus crimes or protests?
Well, I mean, the protests have already... I would say yes. And certainly if you are a green card holder, if you're less than a full U.S. citizen, look, let's go. I know we only have a few minutes, and you have a hard out, Angie. It's like and we'll let you go on time. But I do want to get you down on this. I mean, when this broke, this sent a chilling effect among my friends. We're calling each other, texting each other. We're all U.S. citizens. We all have that U.S. passport. We're all born in the United States. We're all thinking, if they can do this to a green card holder, it's not a huge leap to think that they could do it to anybody else, including a U.S. citizen. I mean, this will send, obviously it was meant to send a chilling message, but I mean, the thing is, could the Trump administration move to start arresting U.S. citizens for exercising their free speech rights?
No, I think, and if you say this was a fuck up, this was the perfect fuck up, because then you're testing the waters here. Now they know the next arrest won't look like this at all. It will be a slam dunk. So if we're going to make noise now, Democrats are telling us, wait, hang on. He's a green card holder. He's got a pregnant wife. You can't do this to someone. The optics look bad. We know Trump's
Democrats
all about
don't
optics.
care. Remember, Angie, they don't care about this guy. Progressives care. Lefties care.
Lefties care. And again, I understand the free speech fight. I fight it every single day. But honestly, if he was charged for something other than, just speaking his mind or a thought crime, that's what they're going to get him on.
Sure.
And you can't argue that. If he set a garbage
they're
can
going to
on
dig
fire,
into him.
they're going to
find out everything they can about him. They're going to, I mean, if he's ever so much as been late returning a library book, they're going to find out.
That's right. And that's how it goes. Unfortunately, this guy is going to be used as a pawn, but I do understand having to stop campus hate. We have to do it. If college campus presidents can't do it, if the university presidents can't do it.
That's a broad issue, Angie, right? The big question is protesting in favor of Palestine against alleged genocide, I would say a genocide against the people of Gaza that's killed potentially hundreds of thousands of people. Is that hate? I mean,
oh, well, no, of course not. And Columbia is known for its protests.
It's
right?
also crazy, too, because anti-Semitism at Columbia, let's say the quiet part out loud, Angie, it's a very Jewish school. I mean, like going to Columbia, like I almost came out of it speaking Yiddish. I mean, it's like, it's probably a third of the population is Jewish. It's so Jewish. It's like saying the synagogue is full of anti-Semites. You're like, what?
And again, it's because we have the entire year to figure out how to eradicate the hate and the hate speech and all that stuff out of campuses. And universities didn't do a thing. No, I mean, they might have done like a flyer or put something on their website about it, but that's it.
I wouldn't say that's true. They banned demonstrations. They banned student organizations that are pro-Palestine. They expelled students. They fired their university presidents. I mean, that's not nothing.
Yeah, and you know what? Ultimately, it's very disruptive to the other students who have to kind of live amongst this mess that they never
Oh, poor
involved themselves
babies.
into, right? No, I mean,
Poor
look, I mean, I
babies.
look, you know this. I went for my 20-year reunion on Columbia
Yeah.
during that weekend that it broke out, and
You were
I
still
can
able to get
see.
there, though. You were still able to attend it, right?
I was lucky enough to actually go
These
on campus, right?
these
Because
stories that like, oh, people won't be able to go to class. That's a fairy tale.
correct.
That didn't
Well,
happen.
that's what I mean. They couldn't do their finals because that was finals week,
Well,
and
that's
why
a blessing as far as I'm concerned.
I know everyone got like a pass fail.
I'd be like,
Um,
yeah.
and maybe that's why it was sparked to begin with. So no, look, this is a much broader conversation that needs to happen. And I think that the Trump administration is going to push forward with all these initiatives because that was the mandate that was given to Trump when he was voted in November, right? So we're now enacting all of those campaign promises.
I
Now,
don't
one
know
of
how
them
many.
is to eradicate the violent speeches on campuses. I don't think
I don't think there was much of that. And I know you got to go. And I also don't think there was much, I don't think that he was really, I don't think many people voted for Donald Trump because they wanted, to suck up to Israel.
I think there's going to be pushback from the right on this. I know you got to go. Here's what I see. People on my side of the aisle, like the Thomas Massey type Republican types like me, we already believe that Trump is very weak on social liberties. He was all about the red flag laws, take the guns first, do due process second. Now we're going to start scooping people up to be deported without any kind of a charge. Now he's going after Thomas Massey on the primary. That is how he loses voters like me. Congratulations, Trump. You lost me. Bye.
Ooh,
That's
wow.
rough. When you
I think
lose
the
Robby
pushback should
West.
come from the right. The pushback should come from the
Angie.
right, not the Democrats.
All right,
Angie
guys.
Wong, thank you so much.
I want to
joining
continue
us.
this with you, but with drinks.
Total. Anytime. Please come back anytime. Thank you so
Bye,
much
guys.
for
Bye.
coming on. Really appreciate you. Talk to you soon. All right. So some breaking news before we go here. Donald Trump has increased the tariffs against Canada to 50% from 25%. And it looks like U.S. stocks are falling sharply right now. I'm just going to take a quick look here, but this follows 2 days of sell-offs earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Today, we are down 564 points over yesterday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average currently at 41,347. So that is a pretty substantial drop. Let's look at we just to put this into perspective, on Friday, the market closed at 32,795. So we're down almost 3% of value on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. That's not everything. That's just certain stocks. But over the past 5 days, it's not a crash, but obviously the markets hate uncertainty. And this president's introducing a lot of uncertainty. I kind of laughed when the market experts said, like, Trump should have promised there would be no recession. I'm like, how can he promise that?
Right? It's much easier to use your stormtroopers to go scoop people up without committing crimes and then dictate what the economy is going to do. I mean, he's a fascist thug. He's not a god.
And I think that is a great place to leave today's show. Thanks so much, Robby, for filling in for supporting and moderating the chat, and for filling in for Manila. Manila will be back. Is she back tomorrow? Yeah, she is.
Tomorrow.
Manila is back from her secret, undisclosed, sunny and warm location. Please go check out Putinbot Gaming. And subscribe to that. Support it. That's Robby's channel. Please subscribe here on Rumble, lower right-hand corner of your screen. Please subscribe on YouTube. Please, you can subscribe for any amount you want, $5 a month, whatever you feels right to you.
Yeah.
Free
YouTube makes it easy. Just click
the
the follow button. YouTube makes it so much easier than Rumble does. Just click follow and you're done.
Okay. And so we'll be back tomorrow, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock on the West Coast. You do the appropriate adjustments everywhere else. Thanks so much, Robby. Again, a real pleasure, a good conversation. We'll see what happens tomorrow with Mahmoud Khalil.
I'm waiting to see if
what's your prediction?
I think they're going to railroad this guy. And
wow.
I can tell you I'm going to be the least favorite person in my church probably because I went public with this. My church
right.
is very small, very Baptist, very Zionist, and I'm like, no, this is
We'll
wrong.
have to talk about that. It's always a mystery to us lefties about like the connection between evangelical Christianity and Zionism.
This is Schofield Bible. I can walk you all through it.
All right,
this is Schofield reference Bible.
For another time. All right, we'll let that go. Robbie, thanks everyone. Thank you everyone for watching us. Really appreciate it. And take care. And I gotta find that thing. Bye.
Bye.